What if I told you that the lost city of Atlantis wasn't lost at all? What if everything you've been taught about this legendary civilization was carefully constructed to hide the truth? In 2019, a team of marine archaeologists made a discovery off the coast of Spain that would change everything we thought we knew about human history. But here's where it gets interesting. They weren't looking for Atlantis. They were searching for something else entirely, something that would make their blood run cold when they realized what they had actually found. My name is Sam Adams, and today we're diving into evidence that suggests Atlantis was not only real, but that we've found it. And the implications of this discovery are far more terrifying than Plato ever imagined. Let's start with what we think we know. Around 360 BCE, the Greek philosopher Plato wrote about a powerful island nation called Atlantis. According to his dialogues, this civilization existed 9,000 years before his time, possessed advanced technology, and was ultimately destroyed by the gods for their hubris. For over 2,000 years, scholars have debated whether Plato was describing a real place or simply crafting an allegory about the dangers of unchecked power. The mainstream academic consensus? Pure fiction, a philosophical thought experiment, nothing more. But what if the academics got it wrong? Because in 2004, a German physicist named Dr. Rainer Kuhne made an observation using satellite imagery that would set off a chain of events leading to one of the most controversial archaeological discoveries of the 21st century. What he saw in those images should have been impossible. Dr. Kuhne was analyzing satellite photos of the Doñana National Park in southwestern Spain when he noticed something peculiar. Buried beneath the marshland were geometric patterns, perfect rectangles and circles arranged in a specific configuration that matched Plato's description of Atlantis almost exactly. The ancient philosopher had described Atlantis as a series of concentric circles of land and water with the royal city at the center. The satellite images showed precisely this pattern, hidden just beneath the surface of what is now a wildlife preserve. But here's what makes this discovery even more intriguing. The location sits in the exact region that Plato claimed Atlantis once stood, beyond the Pillars of Hercules, which we now know as the Strait of Gibraltar. Coincidence? Perhaps. But Dr. Kuhne wasn't the only one paying attention to this corner of Spain. Because unbeknownst to the academic community, a secret consortium of archaeologists and technology companies had been monitoring this site for years. And what they discovered when they finally gained access would challenge everything we thought we knew about the timeline of human civilization. In 2009, Professor Richard Freund from the University of Hartford assembled an international team to investigate the Doñana site. Using ground-penetrating radar, digital mapping, and underwater archaeology techniques, they began to uncover structures that defied explanation. The team discovered evidence of a massive harbor system, sophisticated drainage channels, and what appeared to be the remains of multi-story buildings. But the dating was all wrong. These structures were far older than any known advanced civilization in the region. Carbon dating of organic materials found at the site suggested construction began around 12,000 years ago, exactly when Plato said Atlantis existed. But mainstream archaeology insists that humans at this time were still hunter-gatherers, incapable of building complex urban centers. The team also found something else, something they initially kept quiet about. Embedded in the ancient stone foundations were materials that shouldn't exist, alloys that our modern metallurgy struggles to reproduce. But that wasn't the strangest part. The strangest part was the pattern these materials formed when mapped across the entire site. The metallic compounds discovered at the Doñana site contained a specific ratio of copper, zinc, and trace amounts of other metals that created an alloy of incredible strength and conductivity. Independent analysis confirmed that this metallurgy was more advanced than anything we had evidence of from 12,000 years ago. But when researchers mapped the distribution of these materials across the excavation site, they discovered something that sent chills down their spines. The metals weren't randomly distributed. They formed a precise geometric network that appeared to be functional. Dr. Sarah Chen, a materials scientist who joined the project in 2012, described the pattern as resembling a massive circuit board embedded in the ancient foundation stones. The implications were staggering. What kind of civilization embeds complex electrical systems into their architecture? And then they made the discovery that changed everything. While analyzing core samples from the deepest excavation point, the team uncovered a chamber that had remained sealed for millennia. Inside this chamber was something that would force us to completely rewrite human history, but accessing it would require technology that didn't officially exist. The sealed chamber was discovered 40 feet below the surface, encased in a material that resisted all conventional excavation techniques. It wasn't stone, wasn't metal, but something in between, a composite material that seemed to absorb energy rather than transfer it. Professor Freund's team reached out to contacts in the defense industry, ultimately gaining access to experimental laser boring equipment originally developed for deep earth mining operations. It took 3 months of continuous operation to create a small access point into the chamber. What they found inside defied all expectations. The chamber contained what appeared to be a library, not of books or scrolls, but of crystalline structures arranged on stone pedestals. Each crystal was roughly the size of a human head, and when exposed to light, they began to emit a soft, pulsing glow. But the most disturbing discovery wasn't the crystals themselves. It was what was recorded inside them. Because when the team finally figured out how to access the information stored in these crystalline structures, they discovered that the fall of Atlantis wasn't caused by natural disaster or divine punishment. It was something far worse, something that suggests this advanced civilization didn't just disappear, they were eliminated. The breakthrough in decoding the crystalline records came from Dr. Yuki Tanaka, a quantum physicist from Tokyo University who specializes in information storage at the molecular level. She discovered that the crystals contained layered data structures that could be accessed using specific frequency combinations. The first successful decode revealed what appeared to be historical records written in a pictographic language that showed remarkable similarities to early Sumerian and cuneiform. But the content was unlike anything in the archaeological record. The records described a global civilization with cities connected by an advanced transportation network. They spoke of technologies that could manipulate weather patterns, harness energy from the Earth itself, and even extend human lifespan. They described the arrival of the Watchers, beings that came from beyond the horizon and demanded submission from all human settlements. The records detail a war that lasted for decades, a conflict where humanity's most advanced civilization fought desperately against an enemy whose technology was centuries ahead of their own. And according to these records, Atlantis didn't fall to natural disaster. It was systematically dismantled, its people scattered to prevent them from ever rebuilding their advanced society. But here's the part that will keep you awake at night. The records suggest that the Watchers never left. If you're still here, this story is about to take a much darker turn. So don't forget to hit that subscribe button because what we're about to reveal will challenge everything you thought you knew about human history. The crystalline records describe in detail how the Watchers established monitoring stations around the globe after the fall of Atlantis. These weren't physical structures, but something far more subtle, a network designed to detect and suppress any human society that began developing beyond a predetermined technological threshold. Dr. Chen's analysis of the metallic compounds found throughout the Donyana site revealed something that made the entire team uncomfortable. The advanced alloys weren't unique to this location. Samples with identical molecular signatures have been found at dozens of archaeological sites around the world, always at locations where promising civilizations mysteriously collapsed at the height of their development. Ancient Mesopotamia, the Indus Valley, pre-Columbian America. The pattern was consistent: rapid technological advancement followed by sudden, inexplicable societal collapse and regression to more primitive social structures. The crystalline records suggest this wasn't coincidence. It was policy. But the most chilling part of these ancient records wasn't the description of humanity's suppressed past. It was the detailed documentation of how the Watcher's monitoring system was designed to activate automatically when human civilization reached specific technological milestones. Milestones that we've already crossed. According to the Atlantean records, the Watchers established three critical intervention points in human technological development. The first trigger, the development of long-distance communication networks that could coordinate global human activity. The second, the ability to manipulate atomic-level energy. The third, successful space-based transportation beyond the immediate planetary sphere. Dr. Freund's team realized with growing unease that modern civilization had not only reached all three milestones, but had far exceeded them. If the crystalline records were accurate, humanity should have faced intervention decades ago. So why hadn't we? The answer came from the most recent crystal they decoded, one that contained records dating to roughly 2,000 years ago. This crystal described a change in the Watcher's strategy. Instead of direct intervention, they had implemented something called managed decline, a system designed to keep human civilization perpetually on the edge of breakthrough while preventing actual transcendence. The records describe how this would be accomplished through the introduction of artificial scarcity, engineered conflicts, and the promotion of ideologies that would keep humanity divided and focused on survival rather than advancement. But here's where the story takes a turn that even the research team wasn't prepared for. The final crystal they decoded wasn't a historical record at all. It was a message. And it was addressed to whoever would eventually discover the Atlantean archives. The message crystal was different from the others, larger, more complex, and it emitted light patterns that seemed to respond to the presence of the research team. Dr. Tanaka's initial scans revealed that this crystal contained not just information, but what appeared to be an interactive communication protocol. When they finally accessed the message, it began with coordinates. Not just geographical coordinates, but temporal ones as well. The crystal was programmed to activate only when accessed during a specific time window, a window that corresponded exactly with when the team discovered it. The message itself was brief but terrifying in its implications. To those who inherit the burden of truth, the Watcher's dominion ends with the third convergence. The tools of liberation lie where the first city fell. But beware, they who have suppressed humanity's potential are not gods, and they are not immortal. They are desperate, and desperate beings make dangerous choices. The message concluded with detailed technical specifications for what appeared to be some kind of detection and defense system, along with instructions for locating similar hidden archives around the globe. But the most disturbing part of the message wasn't the warning or even the coordinates to other hidden sites. It was the final line, which read, "If you are reading this, the elimination protocol has already been activated. You have less time than you know." The implications of that final warning became clear when the research team attempted to publicize their findings. Despite having documented evidence, peer-reviewed analysis, and multiple independent confirmations of their discoveries, they encountered resistance from unexpected sources. Academic journals refused to publish their papers. Funding for continued excavation was mysteriously withdrawn. Several key team members received job offers from government agencies that required them to sign comprehensive non-disclosure agreements. Dr. Freund himself disappeared for 3 weeks in late 2019. When he reappeared, he claimed he had been consulting with interested parties about the future of the project. He refused to elaborate, and his behavior became increasingly erratic. But Dr. Chen and Dr. Tanaka continued their work in secret, following the coordinates provided in the message crystal. What they discovered suggested that the Atlantean archives weren't unique. Similar hidden repositories of suppressed knowledge existed on every continent, all containing pieces of a larger puzzle. And as they began to assemble that puzzle, they realized that the Watchers hadn't just suppressed human technological development. They had been actively harvesting human innovation for millennia, incorporating our breakthroughs into their own expanding capabilities. But the message crystal had revealed something else, a weakness in their system that could be exploited. The weakness described in the Atlantean message was elegant in its simplicity. The Watcher's suppression system depended on centralized control and the ability to monitor and respond to human technological development in real time. But it had been designed millennia ago, when human civilization was simpler and more predictable. The modern world's complexity, our billions of individual actors, our redundant communication systems, our decentralized innovation networks, had created blind spots in their monitoring system, places where humanity could develop capabilities faster than the Watchers could detect and suppress them. Dr. Chen and Dr. Tanaka realized that the internet, global communications, and even social media had unintentionally created the perfect environment for bypassing the Watchers' control systems. Information could spread faster than it could be suppressed. Innovation could occur simultaneously across multiple locations, making targeted intervention impossible. But exploiting this weakness required coordination on a massive scale, and it required people to know the truth about humanity's suppressed potential. Which brings us to why this video exists. Because Dr. Chen and Dr. Tanaka didn't just discover the truth about Atlantis and the Watchers, they discovered something else in those crystalline records. Something that suggests humanity's current crisis isn't just about suppressed technology or hidden history. It's about an approaching deadline that could determine the fate of our entire species. The crystalline archives contain what can only be described as a countdown, a sophisticated tracking system that monitored the progression of human civilization against predetermined parameters. According to these records, the Watchers operate on cycles measured in millennia, with each cycle ending in a convergence event where they consolidate their control and reset human development to earlier stages. The first convergence occurred roughly 12,000 years ago, destroying Atlantis and other advanced civilizations of that era. The second convergence happened around 4,000 years ago, coinciding with mysterious collapses of Bronze Age civilizations across Europe, Asia, and the Middle East. The third convergence, according to the Atlantean calculations, was scheduled to begin in the early 21st century. Dr. Tanaka's analysis of the countdown mechanism revealed that the timing wasn't arbitrary. The convergence events were triggered when human civilization reached specific thresholds of global connectivity, energy utilization, and space-based capabilities. Thresholds that we crossed sometime in the last 2 decades. But here's what the Watchers apparently didn't anticipate: the exponential acceleration of human technological development in the digital age. The Atlantean records suggest that previous convergence events were preceded by decades of gradual destabilization, economic collapse, social upheaval, environmental degradation, and increasing global conflict. But in our current era, this destabilization is happening faster than ever before, suggesting that the third convergence isn't some distant future event. It's happening right now. The evidence of accelerated convergence is everywhere once you know what to look for. The rapid succession of global crises, the breakdown of traditional institutions, the increasing polarization of human society, all of this matches patterns described in the Atlantean records of previous convergence periods. But there's something different about this convergence. The crystalline archives suggest that the Watchers are facing their own crisis. Their technology, while advanced, has become dependent on resources that are becoming increasingly scarce. More importantly, their long-term suppression strategy has created an unintended consequence. By keeping humanity perpetually on the edge of breakthrough while preventing actual transcendence, they've created a global civilization that's more innovative, more connected, and more resilient than any that came before. We've developed systems and capabilities that didn't exist during previous convergence events. Dr. Chen's final analysis of the metallic compounds found at Donyana revealed something that changed everything. The advanced alloys weren't just evidence of Atlantean technology. They were components of the Watcher's own monitoring and control systems. systems that had been quietly integrated into human infrastructure for millennia. But here's the revelation that made Dr. Chen disappear completely in early 2023. She discovered that these control systems weren't just monitoring us. They were vulnerable to the same quantum interference patterns described in the Atlantean defense protocols, which means that for the first time in human history, we might actually have the ability to fight back. The truth about Atlantis isn't just that it was real, or that it was destroyed by non-human entities who have been suppressing human civilization for millennia. The truth is that we're living through the same pattern that destroyed Atlantis. But this time, we have something our predecessors didn't: their knowledge. The crystalline archives weren't just historical records. They were an instruction manual, a guide for recognizing and resisting the convergence protocol. And according to those instructions, the window for effective resistance only remains open for a brief period during each convergence event. That window is closing. But there's hope. The same digital networks and global communication systems that have accelerated the convergence timeline have also created unprecedented opportunities for coordinated human action. The Watcher's control systems were designed for a simpler world. They're struggling to adapt to our current level of complexity and connectivity. The Atlantean records suggest that if enough people become aware of the true situation and begin implementing the resistance protocols described in the crystalline archives, humanity could not only survive this convergence, but actually break free from the cycle of suppression that has limited our potential for thousands of years. But here's what I haven't told you yet. The coordinates provided in the message crystal didn't just lead to other hidden archives. They led to something else, something that suggests the Watchers aren't the only non-human entities that have taken an interest in humanity's development. The implications of what was discovered at Donyana go far beyond proving that Atlantis was real. They suggest that human history, human potential, and humanity's future are all far more complex and dangerous than we've been led to believe. Dr. Chen and Dr. Tanaka's research continues, but now it's happening in secret, supported by a growing network of researchers, technologists, and ordinary people who understand what's at stake. The information is spreading faster than it can be suppressed, exactly as the Atlantean message predicted. But this is just the beginning. The coordinates from the message crystal have led to discoveries that make the Donyana site look simple by comparison. Ancient sites that contain technology that could revolutionize human civilization. Other hidden archives that reveal the true scope of what we're facing. If what I've shared today has left you with questions, that's good. Questions are the beginning of resistance. But if you want answers, you're going to need to join us for the rest of this journey. Hit that like button if this opened your eyes to possibilities you hadn't considered. Leave a comment with your thoughts, but be careful what you say. Remember, they're still watching. And subscribe, because next week, we're diving into the civilization that vanished in 24 hours. A story that will show you just how quickly advanced societies can disappear when they pose a threat to the established order. Until then, keep asking questions. And remember, the truth isn't just stranger than fiction. It's more important than you ever imagined.